Good evening and welcome to the Ogden City Council meeting of May 2nd, 2017. This is the 6 p.m. City Council meeting. Please note that all council members are present. However, Council Member Blair has requested to be excused for tonight. With that, I will turn the time over to Vice Chair Heyer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chair White. We thought we'd depart a little bit from standard, and we've asked Mayor Caldwell if he would lead us in the pledge today.
Honored to do so. Please rise. Pledge after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Please take a moment of silence with me. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is a couple of recognitions, and I'm lucky to get to present Make a Difference Day. So, proclaiming May 4th, 2017 as Make a Difference Day in Ogden City. Whereas the Ogden community will come together for a day of service on May 4th, 2017, as part of Ogden's 9th annual Make a Difference Day. This event builds civic pride and unifies the community while joining collective efforts to clean up the city in preparation for summer events and activities. And whereas groups of all sizes and ages are invited to participate in Make a Difference Day by organizing projects, and all residents are encouraged to do their part to improve the community by volunteering in one of those projects. The options for service are endless, and the results are significant. And whereas Make a Difference Day has become a valued local tradition that continues to grow each year. More than 1,250 volunteers completed 65 projects last year, and event organizers are working hard to make this year's event even more successful. And whereas projects organized for this year include painting at the Ogden Amphitheater, planting flowers at the Golden Hour Senior Center and city golf courses, prepping the Oasis Garden, cleaning tree grates along historic 25th Street, painting fire hydrants, cleaning the Parkway Trail, working on other trails, and trailhead improvements, painting rooms at the Marshall White Center, and more. And whereas Make a Difference Day helps showcase our beautiful city during the busy summer months and sets a national example for civic engagement. The extraordinary level of participation in Make a Difference Day projects is evidence that our residents are some of the best in the country. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell do hereby proclaim May 4th, 2017 as Make a Difference Day in Ogden City. We express sincere appreciation to the Ogden Public Services employees who dedicate countless hours to planning and carrying out this event, and we are grateful for everyone who donates their time and efforts in making a difference in Ogden.
Chair White, I would like to make a motion that we approve the proposed joint resolution or proclamation declaring May 4th, 2017 as Make a Difference Day in Ogden.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. That passes.
Mr. Louder is ill, so accepting the resolution on behalf of Mr. Louder will be Mr. Anderson.
All right. Well, come on up, Mr. Anderson.
We can take his picture too.
Get there, buddy.
I know. I'm already there. Congratulations. Oh.
Yeah. Well, quick.
He seems to be liking his role. What do you think?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Oh, I like this thing. I'm gonna
I'm going to leave it right there for
We're
now.
gonna put it right there.
Just real quickly, I know Jay is sad not to be here and accepting this because he's had such a important role in Make a Difference Day, and he has taught all of his employees just how important it is to involve the public in taking ownership of the community, and this is an opportunity to do that. And we are very thankful for all the support the City Council and the Mayor and administration gives to this day. So, thank you.
Thank you. Have time on the 4th, come out and paint a fire hydrant or something. Councilmember Stevens and I did that one year. That was fun.
We're going to turn dirt this year.
We're going to turn dirt, is that what you said?
Your prediction?
Next on the agenda is the Historic Preservation Month, and Councilmember Lopez.
Yeah, Chair White, thank you. Appreciate the invitation to read this proclamation, and honor to do that. Declaring May 2017 Historic Preservation Month in Ogden City, whereas Ogden City boasts a rich heritage and historic character that is nationally recognized, historic preservation is a valuable tool that helps to maintain our community character, foster local pride, revitalize neighborhoods, and enhance overall livability. And whereas Ogden's history can be experienced today in the many structures listed on local and national historic registers, these buildings are of varied style and unique design, ranging from Miles Goodyear's cabin of 1847 to many homes constructed during lucrative days of the Transcontinental Railroad. It is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by individuals dedicated to preserving the tangible characteristics of the heritage that has shaped us as people. And whereas the Ogden Landmarks Commission works to preserve Ogden's historic character through the architecture, construction, development, and maintenance of structures, sites, and areas that are historically significant, the Landmarks Commission is a certified local government program, making it eligible for grants from the state. And whereas each year, Ogden's Historic Preservation Scavenger Hunt provides an opportunity for residents to become aware of some of the unique historic and architectural designs and structures within Ogden, the scavenger hunt will run through May 17th, and the prize drawing will take place at the Weaver County Heritage Foundation and Ogden City Landmarks Commission program on May 18th at the Eccles Art Center. Whereas we encourage the entire Ogden community to participate in the May 2017 Historic Preservation Scavenger Hunt to become more aware of the impressive historic structures, architecture, and designs throughout our community. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim May 2017 Historic Preservation Month in Ogden City. We recognize the substantial contributions of our Planning Commission, Landmarks Commission, Planning and Community Development staff, Weaver Heritage Foundation, local businesses, and residents who have worked to restore and retain the rich and historic legacy of our community. Congratulations, and thank you for letting me read this. Yes.
I'm Connie Cox, president of the
Wait,
Weaver.
we have to, just hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just hang on, you're
Need
okay.
a motion to adopt it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt this proclamation.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Stevens, to approve the joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Now you can come up.
Let us give you this first, if it's okay. Come on, please. And we'll take a picture, then we'll let you speak. Thank you so much for being here.
You don't have to pull it.
There we go.
I can stand.
Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
I know.
I'm Connie Cox, and I'm president of the Weber County Heritage Foundation. I would just like to thank you all for making this proclamation for May as National Preservation Month. And I'd like, again, to invite you all to our May 18th meeting with the Landmarks Commission up at the Eccles Center. We'll go through the scavenger hunt and give prizes for the winners. And then we're also going to have a walking tour of Jefferson District. And the Weber County Heritage Foundation has commissioned plaques similar to the ones in the Eccles District for 12 houses in the Jefferson District, and we're going to have a plaque planting party, hopefully that week, and get them up so that everybody can see, and it'll make a nice splash, and people will be more aware of the importance of those houses. And I'd also like to inform you that the Heritage Foundation just got a $8,500 grant from the DAR, the National DAR, to help us with the funding to restore and rebronze the Doughboy statue in the Ogden City Cemetery. The statue is already at the foundry in Lehigh and will be ready soon, and we're hoping to have a new base and new landscaping and everything ready for November 11th, 1918. So usually we need things finished yesterday, but we're a little ahead of the game this time, which is good. But we've had a lot of community support for the Doughboy statue. We've raised, we got the $8,500 grant. We have a $2,000 grant with the Veterans the Terry Scow and his folks in town. And then we've raised about $12,000 from private people in the community. One woman gave us $8,000 just to honor her father. So it has a lot of support in the community, and we appreciate your support. Thank you. We appreciate. I also want to come to say thank you to the Community Development Landmarks Commission and the planning staff, because without them, we could not have such a good partnership and do as much as we do for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Chair White, there's this historic scavenger hunt is really fun for families to do. There are usually, and I trust there are some of those flyers down on the second floor for the scavenger hunt, so everybody will want to get one. Are there any online that people can download? OgdenCity.com/scavenger hunt. That's something it's a good thing to do. So I highly recommend it. We've done that as our family for several years, and really look forward to it. It's a lot of fun.
All right, thank you. So we have approval of minutes. Excuse me, regular meeting of January 17, 2017. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct.
And the regular meeting of February 21st, 2017. Councilmember Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair White. I've reviewed the minutes, and they appear accurate to my knowledge.
And the closed executive session of February 28th, 2017. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair White, the minutes are correct, and I move that we approve the minutes. Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Vice Chair Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on our agenda is a common consent item. However, we would like to pull that off the agenda. We will need
So, Chair White, I'll make a motion that we pull off of the agenda item number 6A.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Vice Chair Heyer. This is a voice vote? Is that correct? This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move right on to the public hearings section. The annual action plan for July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018.
Mr. Ward Ogden will be presenting. He does have a good last name.
I wouldn't work anywhere else. I couldn't. I'd
It'd be
have
hard
change
to work
my
somewhere
name.
else. Awkward, yeah.
The item before you tonight is the adoption of the annual action plan for the year 2018, fiscal year 2018. I tapped it wrong. The action plan, I don't seem to be able to work this thing very, I need this to go much quicker. How do I do that? Can you help me with that? The arrows, there you go. Just fill it all in. Okay, that's great. I didn't want to belabor this. We've gone over the action plan several times. It's gone through public comment and the public process since January, and we've had work sessions with the council as well. So tonight is the opportunity for us to adopt the action plan. Just to quickly go over what this is. It's the implementation of the third year of our 5-year consolidated plan strategy. And so each year we develop action plans and budgets to accomplish those strategies. It's also an application for the federal funding that comes to the city through entitlement grants, the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Program. And we'll show you the amounts in a minute. It outlines the programs that will be funded and the goals for the year. Okay. The block grant funds 3 categories in the block grant. We have an entitlement of just under $1 million, $982,000, and the entitlement that was not used in the prior year is carried over, so there's $530,000 being carried over. And then proceeds of investment of the block grant coming back to us in the amount of $235,000. So we have $1.8 million in block grant to spend. Our entitlement in home is $339,000 with carryover of $302,000, and Chodo is a special category of nonprofit that receives some money in the home program, and that's set aside for them. That $50,000 is carrying over as well. And then our program income estimate for the coming year is $73,000. So $765,000 in home funds. And the programs that are funded through the Community Development Block Grant and the Home are the same programs that we've had in our consolidated plan and carry forward each year, and we're not proposing changes to any of those programs. So these are pretty much the funding amounts that we've had in many of the programs over the years. The Own in Ogden program, $250,000. Infill homes, community development, that's the Chodo fund. They build new homes. Traditionally, they can rehab homes, but it's usually new homes. And then our quality neighborhood, this was the community development block grant, and the home goes into our purchase and rehab, the asset control homes that we buy from HUD. And we'll do 8 of the federally funded and then some others that are not federally funded as well. So we typically do about a dozen homes in that program each year. The infill program is, we have a goal of 1 this year, but that's because we're ramping up for our new D school project, which will be undertaken starting this summer with the road work and all that. So we'll start new homes in hopefully in November if we get the roads in. If not, then it will be in the spring. the demolition program, in case a demolition project comes up, we have a small amount of funds there. And our emergency home repair for the very low-income people, we have $40,000 in that. Rental rehab, $90,000, and our public improvements, $450,000. And then we have our administration costs that are carried, part of the city's administration costs, staff costs and things, $291,000. So those are the community development programs. The business development programs, the Business Information Center receives $55,000 each year. The special economic development projects, you recall the $500,000 project that we did in the current year, so there's really not a lot of money left to put into that. So it's kind of a placeholder amount, that $10,000, that keeps the program alive in case we needed to transfer funds into it from another source if a project comes up. The small business loans, $308,000, and then the micro enterprise loan program, which is essentially spending its money this year, and again, another placeholder amount. And I won't go through this blue and white sheet, but it's for the record that this is really how all the funds come together, and they're tabulated by source and by program, and it also gives evidence of the fact that we're not only programming the federal funds, the community development block grant and the home, but there's a number of other sources that come together to kind of augment that strategy. And while we don't apply to the federal government for these, we put them on the sheet that it helps us all to understand how these programs are running. And so tonight is the night where we're doing the adoption. This date is incorrect. It says May 3rd, but it's May 2nd when we adopt it. And we send it to HUD 45 days before the end of our fiscal year, and they approve it by the end of June, and then we'll have our funds available to us beginning in July, assuming that the federal government passes the budget tomorrow or the next day. That's the money that's actually going to be in our action plan, is the money they're voting on tomorrow. So typically that comes long before this time. And we're told that the budget that they've proposed has no changes to the block grant or home, and it actually keeps the same levels from 16. So that's good news for us. So we'll see what happens next year. It's a potential for some changes next year, but we just don't know. Are there questions?
When you sell a home, where do those funds go?
The funds go back
such as
into the
home
program.
in Ogden. What's that?
When we sell it, we fix up a home and sell it. Yes, it goes back into the program.
Okay.
Yes. We borrow funds also from, we have a line of credit with Synchrony Bank. If you recall, we enter into loan agreements every few years. And we'll be bringing back a renewal of that loan agreement shortly for you. But we borrow that money, then of course we pay that money back, and any extra proceeds comes back into our program. So it just recycles.
So I know you've answered this before, but can you tell me why we would have carryover funds? I mean, why don't we use them all in one year?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a strategy to pool funds to get enough funds to do a project. For instance, the infill projects, when we get our block grant, each year we put the entitlement into accounts, and it's in smaller amounts. So over a few years it builds up a fund source that's enough to take on some bigger projects. So that's typically why we have carryover. And sometimes we have projects that we initiate in one year but don't finish until the following year. So there's some carryover that way as well.
Question about federal funding. In the federal budget, the omnibus bill goes through September 30th through the fiscal year FY17, the federal fiscal year, right? So
yes,
it's their current fiscal year that would provide money for our next fiscal year, FY18.
That's
for us?
exactly right. The federal fiscal year typically starts in October, and if they pass a budget, then it would start then. And that money that's allocated in October of one year, we plan for the expenditure of that starting in July of the following year. So we have a long delay between when we know our budget and when we get to start spending it in a good year. but in years like this. Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to open the public hearing.
Seeing no
Team.
movement, I will make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Don't we have to adopt it now?
Yes. I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2017-11.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adopt the proposed resolution 2017-11. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye, that passes. Yay. Let's hope the budget does the same. All right, next on the agenda is the reports from administration. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Good to be before you, in large part because this means it's off our desk and onto yours now. We've done our pick and shovel work, so you guys get to take it from here. And as we go through this, I really want to thank, before we get into it, all of our department directors for their honesty, commitment, and professionalism as we go through this. They all need to bring their best ideas to the table, and it's 4 days full of full-day retreats, and everybody scrutinizes every dollar that's spent and everywhere that it goes. So without their help, this would not come together. I also want to give a special thanks to Mark Johnson. His experience and expertise in this area is absolutely phenomenal. And Brandy, Lisa, and Camille, who have bloodshot eyes for about 2 months because this is something that they pour over, and those spreadsheets are long and arduous, and I don't envy their positions as they go through that. Like I've said before, and I still absolutely believe, what we do with the public funds that are under our responsibility is really the bellwether for how we are as representatives. If it's clean, it's transparent, people know that we've spent our time doing this, done our due diligence with it, there's a public trust and a confidence that none of us take lightly. I think it's one of the most important things and responsibilities that we have as council people and as an administration, and we take that responsibility very seriously. And that being said, it's easier to do some of these, unfortunately, when you don't propose big changes. We didn't see a windfall or anything else, so a lot of what you see and go over will be already plowed ground, which is okay because we know that those dollars have been scrutinized and scrubbed, and we are doing the most with the limited amount of resources we have, and so I'm very proud of that. Bring Mark up in a minute to talk about some of the future projections, but I wanted to go through some of the accomplishments in the last year that we've all partnered to get done. One of the ones I'm really proud of is Fire Station 3. I've seen you all there. I think we all enjoyed tacos and some other things as that was opened. But it's worth mentioning the Fire Station 3 that we replaced was built 70 years ago. And as you look at how policing and public safety and technology and everything else has changed, you can imagine just how old that building was and how desperate it was in need of replacement. We have a responsibility for our public safety people, and I was very proud of how that came together, and I think it's really important. I'm, as I'll talk about a little bit, a big fan of historic preservation, but historic preservation for a 70-year-old firehouse in the new modern world, I don't know, is the kind of historic preservation that I get really excited about. One of the highlights in our community that continues to be a highlight is what's going on out at BDO. As you can see, just in the last year, we have almost 1.4 million square feet going under roof and under construction, which is amazing to me. As you look through that, you can see just how unique that is. We'll talk in a minute about some of the jobs that have been created out there as a result of that, but that is a phenomenal project for us. In that area alone, we've created almost 3,400 jobs in the last 4 years. So BDO as I go and I travel the state and talk to, with my responsibility as the vice chair of EDC Utah and some other places, they're always lamenting the fact that they don't have anything near what BDO is. It's the largest industrial park in the entire state of Utah right now. And we can compete in ways out there that they can't compete in almost any other community. They were telling me in Salt Lake it takes about 20 months to put up a building, and when we got HomeDepot.com to come in, it was 6 months from bare dirt to 800 employees working in that facility. Nobody can do what's happening out there, and I'm very proud of the work everybody's put into making that such a tremendous success. Another big lift in the last year was a new city website. If you think of how technology's changed in the last 9 years, that was how old our website was. It took almost 9 months to build this new site. It was a coordinated effort from all of our departments. We wanted to focus on citizen engagement. I think we've all talked about this being an intimidating place to come be, to have your voice heard in government, to come stand at the dais and not be really sure who the personalities are or anything else. This gives people a portal to access us and the department directors they might not know how to find otherwise, and it really is focused on improving citizen engagement, so we're very excited about that. We obviously modeled this after the best practices of other civic websites. That was part of the length of putting this together. We wanted to take some of those best practices and put in. And it also has an employee portal, which we haven't had before, which we're very excited about. This was another enormous lift, and we asked them to pull the hours for the implementation of this because we knew it was a lot of work for a lot of people. We didn't recognize just how much of a lift that was. When you look at the bottom of that, those departments that all contributed to this, over 9,000 hours to make this improvement, I think is phenomenal. It'll streamline almost all of our records keeping and allow us to run reports on how efficient we are and what we're doing with those resources. It scrubs a lot of the redundancies, entering and filing paper and reports 2 or 3 times. This gets it all done at one point, gets it to the point of contact it needs to be at. And I really believe that this will help us work smarter, not harder, which is what we're always trying to do in these types of environments. So I think that's a phenomenal accomplishment from a lot of those department directors, and we're very grateful for that. Job creation. I mentioned what's happened out at BDO. This is a good picture of the Envy building as it came up. But those last 4 years, as you see, that's over 3,400 jobs that have been created through these different parks and in our community. Sometimes it's difficult to talk to people about what a job center and creator Ogden City is. Our daytime population goes from our nighttime population is about 85,000, and the estimate is that we balloon to almost 125,000 during the daytime. And that's a phenomenal employment center, but it also comes with some challenges as we look to create resources to service that many people as they come in and out of our community. But we are truly a leader in northern Utah in job creation. Nobody's matching what we're doing up here. I think that's a real focused and collective effort from everybody that's involved in that. But those are some fairly staggering numbers, and we're extremely proud of that. Those are livable wages for the most part. People are raising families with that money. They're buying homes, and they're dropping roots in our community, and that's something that's always been a huge priority, I believe, for all of us. It's kind of ironic that we talked about this being Historic Preservation Month, but I want to put a caveat as we look at the demolition of some of these homes. It was the year of the demolition. If you look down the list, we wanted you to see exactly what those demolitions were. Vacant homes that were typically real drains on the neighborhood. If you're trying to get more people to move in and put some sweat equity and some muscle into rebuilding some of these rentals and raising their families there, almost to the building, every one of these was a drain on the community. People were afraid to locate by those. You had transients that were breaking in. Sometimes they were drug houses. If you look at a lot of these, they were some of our highest calls for service in our entire community from the police and fire department. So we're really excited about what this can do in rebuilding our neighborhoods. We've targeted these to try to acquire them and really catalyze some additional development. We're very excited about that. So last year was the year of the demo. This next year will be the year of the construction, of the rebuild. And I asked them to include this picture because it is a fantastic architectural rendering of what these buildings may look like in the future. But the D school area, we'll start on that like we did with Ogden. I thought that was a phenomenally successful project, completely changed what was 3.5 acres of really blighted area. We're really excited about moving some young families in there. When you couple this area with what's gone on with the New Bridge School, that's going to be an entirely different corridor. And so we're very excited about moving some young families in here. That'll be 21 homes is what we're currently looking at, and you'll start to see construction on them a little bit later this year. And we're very excited about what's coming out of the ground in that D school area. A couple of fiscal year 2018 budget highlights. This is kind of the 30,000-foot view as you look at the general fund, Ogden City Corp's total. Redevelopment Agency, Building Authority, that $14 million change. I believe that was a water bond. That
17 million, yeah, it reduced it from last year.
That's the big number you see there, but overall not a tremendous change. Weaver Morgan Strike Force certainly went up a little bit, but it wasn't enormous. So we're holding fairly consistent with what we're doing and how the city's generating revenue and managing itself. As we went into these budget retreats, the thing we put at the top of the list was the 4% employee increase. I believe that our employees are our single greatest resource in the entire community. I think everybody's aware of the fact as we went through a recession and some other times, we've all had a lot of dialogue about people not having regular and consistent raises over a number of years. And so what we put at the top of the list was to make sure that we do have a 4% employee increase for the police step, a fire step, and this was the first thing funded in the budget. Obviously, this is contingent on your approving the final budget, but I wanted you to know how we established those priorities. I think you're all aware we're in a very competitive job market. Laterals opened in Salt Lake again, and a lot of the other communities are looking at our experience level. Our officers and our fire, public safety in general, take more calls per person than almost anybody else in the state. And so they have come with a great deal of experience. And so they're very attractive employees to bring in because you don't have to retrain them and everything else. So without continuing with that 4% increase and giving people a way forward so they feel like they have a career, they can build their career here, I think a lot of that commitment and to the community and to the city starts to wane. So it's a really important thing for all of us, and every one of the department directors agreed that that needed to be the #1 priority. We also haven't had a chance to address the general employees, so we recommended a 1% per year for each year they received no merit increase. So if you're here for 6 or 7 of those years that you received 0 merit increase, if it was 6 years, you'd get the 6% bump. If it was 7 years, you'd get a 7% bump. We certainly didn't have the money to go across the board like we've done with some others, but we're not seeing the same kind of competition for some of those employees. So we're still committed to fixing that, but it's going to take a few bites at that apple to get us to where we'd like to be. Some revenue highlights. We'll talk a little bit more about property tax. There are some opportunities there to look at that. We have 2 expiring RDAs expected to bring in an additional $350,000 in additional property tax. We haven't expired a lot of those, so in my opinion, that's a really good sign that these are starting to expire because the projects have been completed, they've served their purpose, and they're going to roll off of that. And all of those entities, the school district, Weaver County, and Ogden City, will start to realize some of that property tax revenue. Sales tax increase of 4%, which was almost $650,000. Franchise tax decrease of $100,000, and telecommunications decrease of $50,000, which is a trend we've seen over the last number of years. Licenses and permits increase of $53,850. Road funds increase of $100,000. Court fines and forfeitures have stayed flat. Amphitheater revenue increase of $158,000, which is amazing. Those of you that have been here for a little bit, for a long time, that was a goose egg for us. So we're proud of what they're doing with our special events and that great venue is being utilized down there. Some of the capital improvement highlights, it is going to be, with last year being year of destruction, this will be the year of the build-out. Former site school, property acquisition for public improvement, property acquisition for future development, which is big. And then one thing I'm really excited about, those of you that have been here for a while, Curb, gutter, and sidewalk has been something we bring up every year during every budget cycle. The passing of Prop 1 really allowed us to put a lot more money and a lot more priority into curb, gutter, and sidewalk throughout the community. We've got a master plan for where those dollars are going to be spent in some of our higher traffic areas with the greatest need, but we can make a dent with that. I think prior to some of this, we were looking at about $100,000 a year. We just got continually away from the mark. So this will allow us to make up some ground and get a lot closer to that. So that's an investment people in this community made for that purpose, and we're excited to have some tools to go in and do that. Street construction, and then bicycle master plan projects. And with that, I'm going to bring in the gloom and doom, my black hat partner in this, and he'll talk about some of what we're seeing for the challenges ahead and get into some of the details. So thank you all very much.
I've been called a lot of things before, but gloom and doom, highlight. A couple of comments before I begin on these slides. Number one, I just want to thank our recorders. I looked at the dates on these minutes, and I remember as a council member, sometimes we were approving minutes over a year old. And the process in the city that these minutes have to go through, that's really actually fairly quick, considering all the eyes that look at them and scrutinize them. So I hope Tracy and her gang know how much we appreciate what they do. It's not an easy job to do, but they do a wonderful job. And if I could just bring a little clarity to one slide that the mayor did. On this slide, on the general employee fix, if you remember last year, we did the sworn officers. We had the huge fix to their wages, which was a big thing. And we learned today that we had a police officer who turned down Salt Lake and decided he wanted to stay here. He liked the environment and felt the pay was close enough that he was going to stay here. So maybe we're heading the right direction in that. Our general employees have kind of felt the need for the same thing. And so we're offering, if they were here during those 4 years that are up there, a 1% fix. So the maximum any one employee could receive is 4%. And so that is, we think, a huge thing. And as our department directors have delivered the budget message out to the employees, which they did this last week, that has been warmly received because most of the general employees felt like they would never, and it would never happen for them, that we would do public safety and not do anybody else. So it's a big thing to be able to do this for them, and we've let them know, okay, we're caught up now. Let's just move forward now and worry as we go forward. So, challenges ahead. Laura spent some time, Laura Lewis, last week in the work session talking about buying power, and I think this is a good graph of what $20 will buy. Inflation is silently robbing us of buying power. And I don't know about you, I used to be able to get about $20 a sack when I went to the grocery store. Now, I don't get nearly as much groceries for that $20. So this relates to property tax and some other things that we have been taking a look at and been studying, but it also relates to a lot of other things. Other headwinds that we're facing are being able to pay raises. We're not going to hang on to employees if we can't pay them raises. That, as the mayor said, was the number one thing we looked at this year. It's the number one thing we try and look at every year because there is a very low unemployment rate. And right now, people are going after employees right and left. And with the accolades that Ogden City has received, they're starting to target our employees because they feel like we've got a good thing going here. And so that's going to be really important. Medical insurance and retirement costs. I had one of our CEOs of one of the hospitals in my office a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what's going to happen with health care? And we don't know. He said the Trump factor is just an unknown right now when it comes to health care. We have no clue what we're looking at. Employee safety and security, we always are worried about that. Employee training, we've cut down employee training over the last 17 years. Well, that's going to cause issues in a lot of places because we don't have the funding to really give adequate training sometimes. Computer equipment and maintenance and replacement, we're way behind. Fleet, we're way behind. We should be doing anywhere between $2.5 and $3 million a year to fleet. We've averaged $1.4 million. And it used to be $1.2 million, and one year it was $600,000. We're so far behind in funding the fleet. That's a huge issue. Fuel, I think fuel's going to start going up. It already has started to go up. And I think that's going to continue to go. And if we get into a skirmish or a war, that's going to skyrocket. Facility maintenance, we're behind. Mr. Buxton reminds us all the time, we're way behind in care of our buildings. Our equipment and tools. And one of the headwinds that we're really worried about is the reduction of federal dollars. We're really uncertain what's going on in Washington right now. I don't think anybody knows. And then delayed infrastructure improvements. You know, it's the stuff we can't see. It's the unsexy stuff that's in the ground that we really don't know how bad it is. Lastly, and I think this is probably the biggest headwind, the fact that this might be stronger than a headwind, is I really believe our tax structure is broken. The legislatures recognize this at a state level, and this is going to actually be one of their top priorities in the next couple of years. They won't fix it this coming year because it's an election year for them, but they will be fixing it the year after. Our hope is, and we've been working together with Davis County and several cities in Davis County, to start saying we're broken too. The tax structure is archaic that the cities and counties and the state are under right now. And one of the problems is I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think the revenue sources are sustainable any longer, and I think we really need to take a hard look at it. Think for a moment with me if we got creative and we said, let's change the Constitution and allow cities to get income tax. Maybe they get a little less sales tax, maybe they get a little less property tax. Suddenly they have a four-legged stool that they're working on. Cities wouldn't be worrying about the big box stores any longer. They would be worrying about high-paying jobs because they get a piece of that pie. It would change the dynamics in the state of Utah overnight. The state of Utah tells us that's their number one goal, is high-paying jobs. But the reward system that filters down to the rest of the layers isn't there. So there has to be some creative thinking about the tax structure in the state of Utah when it comes to both the state, the county, and the city. Property tax we've been talking about. It is our most stable source of revenue. The rate adjusts without any truth in taxation hearing. The problem is the only way it goes is one way, down. It never goes up without a truth in taxation hearing. And so as a result, we get a graph like this. And the top line would be the stable line. If we had, since 2003, maintained the rate, kept it up at the same rate every year, which would have taken a truth in taxation hearing every year, in 2016, we would have received $7 million additional in property tax. Now, can any of you have any projects that you are your pet projects that you could have spent $7 million on?
You would have kept it all.
My point is the graphic is pretty chilling when you think about how badly we need revenue and how badly this would have helped if we had had this vision since 2003. So what we're proposing this year is we do need to have a truth in taxation hearing to make sure that we realize the growth from the two RDA districts that are close, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But we also think if we just keep the rate level, and I want to show you an example of, this is the Ogden School District. You can see how many times they've had truth in taxation hearings recently. Last year they had a truth in taxation hearing simply to keep the rate level. As a result of keeping the rate level, they lowered the tax that was paid by many people in the assessed homes. If you can look in the blue column on the side, it reduced taxes on all of those people. But by keeping the rate level, it brought in $1.7 million of new property tax for the school district. Keeping that rate level means more money. It doesn't mean that we're going to charge our citizens more. And that is an important differential that we need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate the citizens of Ogden that this is to the advantage of the city to continue. Now, if the legislature were wise, and if Senator Buxton was here, I'd be telling him this, there probably ought to be a CPI component to property tax that it doesn't require you to do a truth and taxation hearing. Unfortunately, that's not the law. And so we're encouraging that we have a truth and taxation hearing, but not to have a huge rate, simply to keep our rate level and to make sure we realize the growth of the two RDA districts that are expiring or have expired. So sometimes I like to play this, what do I cost? I don't go back to the year I was born because that would be really depressing. But just going back to 87. Now 87 is the year that the truth and taxation law was put into place. So the average cost of a new home, $92,000 versus $365,000. That's an average home now. And you can, as you look down, I mean, it's appalling what they charge for bacon now compared to what they could charge for bacon. I mean, that's something truly important, right? If you look down those, that's scary when you realize how things have changed just in a few short years. Our population has increased by 26%. Our actual property tax is increased by $2 million. Our assessed property value has increased 213%. So why didn't our actual property tax collection increase at the same rate? It's a good point, isn't it? It's good. Public safety expenses increased 155%. We have the same amount of fire stations. We almost have the exact same number of firefighters. We have the same number of police stations. We have a few more police officers. But look at the resident to firefighter ratio between 1987 and 2016. Look at the ratio of police officer to resident in 1987 and 2016. There's one other graphic we should have put up there, and that is the number of calls that they answer, because they have dramatically increased, especially for the number of officers we have. A reminder, we put this slide up every year. I like the cute little house. They've improved that. But that shows how your property tax breaks down. So that great big bill you pay before the end of November, so you don't get on that nasty list that's printed in the newspaper, this is where your money goes. And this is the breakdown. And you can see we get about almost 18% of the property tax. Ogden School Districts gets about 50, almost 54. When I started doing this budgeting, this is my 14th budget I've done from this side of the podium, the school district was about 48, 49%. By the way, this is my 16th budget because I had 2 years on that side. I don't see anybody in this room that's got that many years with the budget, or probably wants it. This is the big list of capital improvement projects that will be coming your way. The mayor highlighted a couple. We're coming in recommending $4.4 million in capital improvement and large projects. We'll be probably in work sessions be describing those and going over those. Many of those were on your list. I think we only didn't get one or two of what was on your list on this list this year funded. And believe me, there was 3/4 of a day of bloodletting on the floor when we went through this list. I always do like to do the report card thing, and maybe I learned that from Spencer Eccles and George Eccles many years ago from First Security Bank. I'm an old First Security Bank employee, and they always did the report card. Last year, these were the quotes we showed you, that it was a weaker U.S. forecast, and a lot depended on whether the Fed raised the rates or not. The Fed raised the rates once the entire year. It was towards the end of the year. They still felt the growth was slow and fragile. Well, we kind of saw that last year. That's what, unfortunately, they were accurate in their predictions. This year, they're saying an interesting thing. Now, this was said, and I think this has got to be the most difficult economic outlook to do, because I don't think anybody knows what the Trump factor is. I don't think anybody knows how it's going to impact Congress. I don't think anybody knows. I mean, the budget he gave to Congress was DOA. It was dead on arrival. But, you know, my guess is that we're not going to have a budget come September. We're really not going to know what's in it for a long, long time, because it's going to be a lot of debate. But this is an interesting quote, which I think kind of gives some caution still when it comes to budgeting. And we've kind of looked at that with the same outlook in our budgeting. Is there's just some caution. There's a lot of unknowns. I've talked to several businesses who are looking to expand, and they've put off the expansion until they kind of have 8, 9 months, 10 months of Trump under their belt. So they figure out really what's going to happen, what's the lay of land going to be in a little while. These are the 2 districts that expired, and we're hoping to realize this $350,000. And we want to, with your permission, schedule a truth and taxation hearing to make sure we do. And we don't know right now whether it's in there or not, because we don't have the tax rate, and we won't for some time. So it would be, you know, we went through these districts they're probably 20 or 25-year districts. We've put the effort forward. We just want to make sure we realize the reward of them at the end of the day. And that's one reason, by the way, the school district had their truth and taxation hearing last year, is they wanted to make sure they realized last year's RDA districts that expired, because they get, if you think we get about 350, they're going to get about 700,000. Health insurance is really an interesting animal right now. Our first rate that came from Select Health was 18% increase, which is off the charts. We went to HSAs, I don't know how many years ago. They've sat where I can't see them. I think we're 7, 8 years ago we went to an HSA. And we went in and we made the plan really attractive. We made it so people would want to move over. We didn't want to come in and mandate it. That was our goal. And one of the areas that we made very lucrative was the maximum out of pocket was $4,000 for a family and $2,000 for an individual. For an HSA, those of you who know anything about insurance, that's amazing. My daughter is on an HSA with her little family, and their maximum out of pocket is $10,000. When we went to this, we said to the employees, I don't know that it will always be this lucrative. And this year was the year we sat down and said, we really need to change that a little bit. So we're changing the maximum out of pocket from $4,000 for a family to $6,000, and for an individual from $2,000 to $3,000. Our feeling was that it's probably time to make that change now. With making that change and one other, we had a lot of people who I think met their maximum out of pocket, and then just, instead of going to the doctor, they just went to the emergency. And our emergency usage went off the charts. And so it was keeping the mayor's brother happy, but everybody else, you know, that's just expensive to be doing that. And if it's not an emergency, that's a pretty good sized charge. So we decided to increase the charges to that also. As a result of those 2 changes, we have a 2.18% decrease in our health care charges for this coming year. We feel good about that. We think that the employees will struggle with that a little bit, because it's a hit to a family to now have to come up with $2,000 more maximum out of pocket. But our feeling is that we've given them 8 years now to save. You know, when you save in an HSA, that money's yours, and it's tax-free if you use it for medical. And so our hope is we can get employees to understand that we've decided to focus, if we're going to give a benefit, we're going to give it to wage. And that way, when they retire, they'll thank us. They, you know, if they're young and a young family, they might not be thanking us now, but they will when they retire, because their wage will be higher, and that'll help them through retirement. That's a big deal. URS system still worries me, although we've had a couple years of no increases. The fire increase is minor to our retirement, so this is a good thing. We've tasked one of our committees on benefits to start looking at the Tier 2, because the Tier 2 benefits are dramatically different than our Tier 1 employees. And I think recruitment's going to start to get more and more difficult if we don't figure out an answer to that. We don't have an answer for FY18, but we're hoping when we are standing here a year from now for FY19, we have an answer for that. Otherwise, we're going to have a hard time hanging on to, I think, these employees who came in after the change in retirement by the legislature. I'm happy to tell you that this budget will be available online after 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And the place you go to get it is budget.ogdencity.com. And the mayor's and my presentation will also be on the website. So you're welcome to give that out to anyone. And my hope is it's live before 10, but I always give them a little grace period just in case. You know, we kind of usually combine thank yous, but I have to tell you, we work with your staff a lot when it comes to budget. We work with your staff a lot when it comes to a lot of things. We like working with your staff, and they are bright, intelligent, they ask good questions, they research things well, and we thank them for the hours they put up with us. We try and have a little bit of fun, but they're wonderful, and we're excited to go through the budget process with them. We also appreciate you and appreciate your time. I've sat on your side, and I had a full-time job, and I was trying to balance it all and still understand this pretty complex budget. If you think about it, you're reviewing almost a $200 million budget. And people get paid a lot bigger bucks than you to sit on boards of companies of that size. We thank you for your efforts and your interest, and we'll try and be as transparent and forthright with those answers as we possibly can to explain. One thing I think you're going to find if you've been here last year and you were awake is that there isn't a lot of change. We shouldn't have a lot of money, so not many things have changed in the budget, and maybe that's disappointing. I don't know. And I said this to a group yesterday. I don't want us to start thinking we're a poor city. We're not. We're like every other city right now, and every other city's in the same predicament we are. Expenses are outpacing revenues. That's why I gave my speech about the tax structure. That's why it's broken, because there isn't enough ways to generate income to help with that, and that's a huge problem. I, like the mayor, would also like to thank our staff. Our staff is amazing, and they're dedicated, they work hard. Those hours that the mayor showed you on the ERP update is only up to this point. In the month of June, they're going to look really fried because we're converting over to the new system. We're not on the new system yet. And any of you who have ever been in a computer conversion, it never goes as planned usually, and it's a very difficult thing. So we really appreciate, through all of this training and setting it up and doing all the things they've been doing, they've still been keeping the budget going and all the other things going in the city. We really appreciate them very, very much. We have a really good staff. And one of the things I'm very proud of, because the first 10 budgets that I stood up here and presented, three people knew what was in that budget. John Arrington, who was the comptroller, Mayor Godfrey, who was the mayor, and Mark Johnson. I'm proud to tell you that every director knows what's in this budget, and any director could explain to you any part of the budget. We do it together. We have a lot of voice, and it takes a little longer, but we make better decisions because of the input of everybody working together, and we have everybody's perspective. I like how we do things, and I think it's that collaborative makes it fun for everybody to come to work. So we thank our people very, very much. They work very hard, and they do a lot of good work. And with that, I would recommend that you accept this for review.
Thank you.
That's what you said.
Starting.
Well, Chair White, I would make a motion that we accept our proposed tentative fiscal year 2018 budget for review, which is Resolution 2017-18.
I second it.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Heyer, second by Councilmember Stevens, to adopt for review the proposed resolution 2017-18. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyer.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye. That passes.
Now is the mayor's day that the work begins. For us.
Next on our agenda is public comments.
There's a little public still back there.
Okay, comments from the mayor.
I'd just say I appreciated us recognizing Make a Difference Day. Jay and his crew do a phenomenal amount of work to put that together and to serve everybody and provide tools and trucks to remove and to bring in debris and wood chips and everything else. And I know that we've all collectively and individually complained about not having enough time on the business end of the shovel in these jobs, being in too many meetings. This is our opportunity to get on the business end of the shovel and know you accomplished something at the end of the day. So thank you for recognizing that.
Comments from the council members.
Just, quickly, thank you to the mayor and his staff and for working with our group. And thank you to the ladies on the back row who make it so that we can understand it a little bit better. We know it's going to be a lot of hard work. There'll be a lot of questions. And we appreciate your diligence on behalf of the council, but also the citizens of Ogden.
Chair White, I'd like to also say that I very much appreciate the mayor's approach to doing a budget. This is a collaborative issue rather than a dictatorship. That does make a better product in the end. I also appreciate them sharing things early with us and our staff. That also makes this go much smoother. And so kudos and thank you.
I think the strength of it is that it's transparent. The other directors know exactly what's in that budget, and that helps us to filter through those and find out just how we're going to implement and look at the budget. So it's very helpful in that aspect.
I just want to say that I appreciate the collaboration, just echo what some of you have said. And, kudos to Mark Johnson. I liked his presentation. Good job. Thank you.
As strange as it sounds, I'm actually looking forward to digging into the budget, but we'll see if I still feel that way come July 1 in August.
Yeah, since my hair's still on fire, I'll go on to another subject. Hey, I just, when you're driving around, you don't get to see this, but I was riding my bike yesterday and I saw a couple of the new street signs on Maryland and Polk. So they look great if you want to get out and see what they're looking like.
With the new logo?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Looks great.
Right.
So
May's bike to work. Month.
only because I was looking up going, oh, how much further? But anyways, that's great. So.
Well, motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's a wrap.
Mayor.